Hello and welcome to the Pinkin Show, the Norwich City fanzine that hasn't stopped pinching itself since Saturday. Going into the weekend's game with Reading, City hadn't managed to beat anyone inside the top 8 all season. Michael and Darren clearly thought the same. They thought they'd be picking their way through another defeat when they booked tonight off, but alas, not only did City win, but they smashed nearly every goal-scoring record in sight, beating Yap Stam's promotion-chasing Reading 7-1. Don't worry though, I do have a stellar lineup joining me on the sofa this evening with Iwan Roberts, John Rogers and Cedric Anselin, ready to reflect on Saturday and also look ahead to that visit of Fulham to Carrow Road on Friday. A reminder that we are live tonight, and all you need to do to get in touch with us right here in the studio and ask us your questions or tell us your views, just post in the live chat on our YouTube feed or send us your tweets, including the handle @Pinkin. And remember, you can even get to us through the studio. We now have a line. It is simply 01603 63 0006. Right, let's get on with this week's headlines. Seventh heaven. Only one place to start, really, isn't there? A record-breaking weekend for Norwich City. The Canaries marked the arrival of new sporting director Stuart Weber in style, scoring 6 goals in the first half of a league game for the first time since 1908 and the first time ever at Carrow Road to pummel those playoff-chasing Royals. Which obviously begs the question, why on earth are Norwich City sitting in 10th in the Championship? A Ricky Martin reference, I'm not singing it. Weber stings like a bee. Norwich City's sporting director may only have been in post for a matter of days, but there are reports today that the reshuffle is fully underway. Now, we must stress at the time of recording, these are simply reports, but word is that technical director Ricky Martin and recruitment chiefs Lee Farnborough and Tony Spearing are set to leave. Watch this space. Long live the King. Norwich City's longest-serving player, Wes Hoolahan, scored his 50th goal for the club this weekend. A gentle reminder that despite the form of Alex Pritchard and the clamours from some for James Maddison to be brought into the side before the end of the season, that he remains the King of Carrow Road. Definitely life in City's number 14 yet. Where was this wolf? The Ricky van Wolfswinkel Renaissance has hit new heights in Holland as the former Norwich City striker scored a hat-trick for Vitesse Arnhem. The £8.5 million flop managed just 2 goals in 28 games during his time with the Canaries, but the 28-year-old has since rediscovered his scoring touch with 18 goals in 29 league games and has lifted Vitesse to 5th in the Eredivisie. And finally, and the wooden spoon goes to... It's hardly going to be the most coveted of Player of the Year awards in recent years, but it must be done. Voting for this year's award is now open. Could it finally be the year for Wes? You decide. And there we have it. Chaps, thank you ever so much for joining me. John, you were there at the weekend. Best performance you ever seen from Norwich City?
No, but only because Reading was so poor. They were off. They gave up within 3 minutes. The game was over. We got the penalties, put it away, and they were absolutely dreadful. Really.
But it's not the first time we've seen Norwich score early on and then go on to play. You know, it seems that the longer the game goes on, the fans get on the back, and the atmosphere changes at Carrow Road. And
it's roles reversed away from home, where they might concede a goal, and all of a sudden the floodgates open. And they'll concede 3, 4 and 5. We've seen it more than once away from home this season. But I wasn't surprised, really. You just got the feeling there's that type of performance in that team, in that squad. And you just got the feeling that someone was really going to get a hammering.
But Reading are 4th. This isn't a mid-table or a relegation threat.
They must have had an off day, and I wasn't there. I've seen the goals on telly. Some shocking defending, and the goalkeeper on a few of them. I'm not too sure what he was doing. But you still got to take your chances. And, you know, a magnificent result and performance.
Yeah, Cedric, what was your take on that?
Well, obviously, I will agree with Ian. I've been to Carrow quite a few times, and you can see that Norwich got potential going forward and potentially score a lot of goals. But again, it's the away. The away games, it just let them down. I'm not surprised that, you know, they beat Reading 7-1. But as a point of view as a manager for Reading, you're quite happy to lose 1 time 7-1, 7 times 1-0. So they can remain in playoffs.
The Yap Stam said after the game that it was one of those performances where he couldn't really do a lot about it. You know, that everything was falling to Norwich in and around the box, and every time they shot, they scored. I think a couple of stats for you. I think Reading had 60% possession at half-time, and Norwich had 8 shots and scored 6 goals. You know, these things you can't really legislate for, can you?
No, that possession one is a bit of a red herring, really. I think there's only one stat that matters, and that's the goals for and against. And within, 4 or 5 minutes, the score was 2-0, I think. And you could probably think or sense that Reading's mentality was looking forward to the 2 games against they had over Easter. Get this one out of the way, get back on the bus to Reading and refocus on the 2 games that are coming up.
Wes and Alex Pritchard both scoring a couple. Can they play in the same team together? Clearly they can.
Away from home, maybe not. I think they've tried it a couple of times and it hasn't come off. But when they are on fire, they are unstoppable. They were working together really well. They did against, I think it was Barnsley. No, not Barnsley. One of the games we played anyway. They were playing together and they were just absolutely on fire. And no one can touch them. Their touch, their passing, that was 2 goals each. They were on fire. It was great to watch. It was really good fun to watch.
Cedric, are you a believer in when they say that these kind of players can't play away from home or play in the same team because of maybe their size and physicality?
Some games, yeah. I would say, if you go on a Tuesday night, I would pick a Crew Alexandra. Maybe it's a difficult game for them to be playing together. But, if you play Newcastle away, Newcastle is quite a nice passing team, them 2 can play together.
And just very quickly, it is the Player of the Season awards. They're now open. Just quickly across, who do you think should get it?
He has been the best player. I'm going to go for Wes. I mean, I've been talking about this for other people, and I just think he deserves it. I don't think he'll play much next season.
No.
He's never won it before, so it's kind of a bit of a celebration, because it's been a rubbish season, so celebration for me, Wes.
Has he ever won it?
No, never. This is the thing, as long as
and you don't want to give it for the wrong reason. You want to give it for the...
sentiment.
And he has been outstanding. He hasn't played every game. Scored some important goals. He probably does deserve to win it.
What about Johnny Howson?
That was going to be my vote.
You'd say, Johnny.
Yeah, every time I go to Carroll, for me, he's the player who stands out.
Very quickly, I will say, since he scored that amazing goal against Forest, he's had quite an average kind of little period.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John. So Saturday's win was, of course, witnessed by 26,163 people. One of them was Stuart Weber. He is, of course, the club's new sporting director. This is what he had to say to Michael Bailey last week when he met the local media for the first time.
Yeah, it probably helps them realise that things are moving in the right direction. I've obviously not been here for the last month since the structure was announced, but that creates uncertainty and it creates, when's something happening? So now something's happened, the first sort of, let's say, piece of the jigsaw's in, so at least that gives someone that people can come and sort of talk to and discuss things with. And I'm sure, it'll make people realise that there is someone here who's going to make some decisions. So of course that changes people's focus on whether it be their job or playing. They know that there's someone now sat here who is going to be, maybe potentially making decisions on them.
You've said about how ambitious you are in the past as a job, and sporting director, it feels like a role that needs continuity. It's a role that a club can build around, whereas that hasn't really ever been the case with a head coach or a manager. Yeah. How do the 2 reconcile? Because that must be quite tricky, having the longevity and obviously your own personal ambitions.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, people will talk about leaving Huddersfield after 2 years, but the conversation I had with the owner at Huddersfield right at the beginning, he said, if you're any good, you won't be here long, because we can't afford with the infrastructure to develop the club as quickly as someone if they're good. And true to his word, here I am. But I knew I had to go to Huddersfield to be a number 1 in a position so I could get judged on my work. And if that would have not been good enough, I was fine with that as well at the start. It's like I just need a platform to show that I'm any good or not, as much to myself as to the outside world. And then when that's sort of been recognised as a respect to Huddersfield as a club, that was never going to be my sort of final destination. And for me to then come to a club with a much bigger infrastructure, much bigger resources, that was a natural sort of next step for me. I knew Huddersfield would always be a shorter time if I was good. I might have been stuck there 5 years if I wasn't very good. No one would thank me for that, but I knew it would be short term, whereas here, it'll be the first time in 6 years that my family will move with me, and I very much see it as being a long-term project. Of course, football is what it is, but I think it's a big enough job here that I don't think I'm going to achieve all my targets here in 2 years, to be fair.
And I know you've got your first meeting with the board fully this afternoon. I don't want to call it a leap of faith because I know it's not, but how confident are you that what you want to do, there will be the resources, the infrastructure and the support in place to make that happen?
100% the support, 100%, because I wouldn't have come here if I didn't feel that from the beginning. And listen, I did my research on the board and people who've either worked with them or know them, because that is vital to me. I'm not moving my family all this way and then leaving a great job who could potentially be in the Premier League next year I didn't need to take that risk as much as I like taking the chance. So the support 100%, the infrastructure 100%, resources. The club is what it is, you know. It is sort of self-sufficient, and they should be proud of that as a club as well, because there's, you know, lots of clubs who are losing 20-30 million pound every year, which is not healthy for a community, and certainly a club like this which is a one club in a county. So listen, I'm under no, you know, I know the job in terms of resources is, you know, we're going to have to be a little bit creative, but we will be, and you know, that's sort of my job and the head coach job when he's here, and Steve Stone's job to make that happen.
And there we have it. Talks very impressively, I think.
Very impressed, very impressed. Said all the right things. Very young man. Hopefully he can cope with all the pressure, because he is the main man now, no matter who. And the first big decision I think he's got to get right is who the new head coach who's going to work underneath him is going to be. It's a big decision for him.
It sounds like he's already made some decisions. As I mentioned earlier, it is only reports at the moment, but Ricky Martin and a couple of recruitment guys apparently being moved on. He's clearly a guy who knows exactly what he wants when he's moving into a club.
Yeah, I mean, it's a compliment. He reminds me of a mobile phone salesman type, kind of pat. He's got the patty. He's like a salesman. That's what his job is, basically. He's a salesman. He's got to sell the club to players and managers to come along. And I'd buy a mobile phone off him, I know that.
And I think if the reports that the lads that you've just said there have gone, I think he wants his own people in. He's got free rein to, I wouldn't say do as he likes, but to get things right. Yeah. So he'll want people he knows, he's worked with in the past, he can trust. Yeah. He'll want to surround himself with those types of people.
And he's been successful in the past, so obviously he's going to bring his own people that he trusts, and obviously he's been so much successful in Huddersfield than probably the previous club before.
Now, the sporting director role is a relatively new thing, isn't it, to English football? Cedric, it's something you would have had when you were at Bordeaux, and something that looks like he's going to bring a foreign coach over here because they're used to working with a sporting director. Yeah. Is that something you think can work in England?
Of course it can work. I think it's been proved in other clubs that he can work. You know, he's just been in Huddersfield where nobody knew who he was, nobody knew who was the head coach over there, and then suddenly they are in the top three. They've been top three all season. Yeah. So he proved that he can work.
I love the way he says Huddersfield.
I like the way he says Premier League.
Premier League.
Premier. But he's a young guy as well. He's moved around. He's gone Liverpool, he's got Wolves, Huddersfield, still in his 30s. Is there any concern that he's moved around clubs quite a lot already?
He said there that the owner at Huddersfield didn't expect him to be at the club for too long, because he could see he was a successful man, he was good at his job, and he was going to go on to bigger and better things. And if he can get half the success that he's had with Huddersfield here, you know, we'll be happy. His head recruitment, that needs a massive look at. I think we all know that. And because he's worked with the academy at Liverpool as well, you know, I think he's sampled all types of jobs at Wolves, at Liverpool, at Huddersfield, and he'll now bring them all together and work at Norwich with it.
A huge amount of pressure on this appointment, though, isn't there, for Stuart, not only the head coach?
Well, personally, if he does a good job, that means Norwich are in a good position, and if he does move on, I'd rather him move on for the good reasons of us being in a really high position and a higher club takes him. I can't tell you now.
Save it for part two, John. OK, that is part one all but done, but don't go anywhere, as up in part two, we're going to take your calls and tweets in Talk is Cheap. We'll see you in 3.
Always.
Hello and welcome back to the Pink 'Un Show, and welcome to Talk is Cheap, where we're going to take your calls, questions, comments on posts. And we were just talking earlier about Stuart Weber, and I've got the man on the phone who knows all about him. We're joined by Gareth Jones now, the BBC Leeds sport editor. Hello, Gareth.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very, very well, thank you, Gareth. So the appointment of Stuart Weber here in Norwich has had many, many headlines, and there's a huge amount of pressure on him now. What is the feeling and the views on him up your way? I presume a hugely impressive man.
Yes, everyone up here is very, very angry that you've taken him away from Huddersfield Town. It's definitely one of those that Norwich's gain has been Huddersfield Town's loss. He's really impressed here, particularly when you consider kind of his age. He has experience and knowledge of the scouting network around the world, really, beyond his years. Someone that's really worked very, very hard to kind of get where he is. And Huddersfield Town, you have to say, as much as David Wagner, the head coach, has taken quite rightly the plaudits for the job they've done this season in being third in the table, a large amount of the success is also down to Stuart Weber by firstly bringing in David Wagner and also the players that have shone this season.
Yeah, I suppose that's another huge thing of it, the turnover of the players as well. How much credit do we give to Stuart Weber for those transfers as well, or were they more kind of David Wagner, because lots of them were from the German leagues, obviously where he came from?
It's been a combination of both, and that's been one of the successes that Stuart and David have worked very well together. They got on very well when they first met, and they've really been able to help each other out. So it has been a combination, but what Stuart's very good at is, one, spotting the people, but even if it's not his target, he goes, does all the business, he's happy to travel around wherever it needs to be, whatever time he needs to do a meeting, to take that pressure off the manager or the head coach so they can focus fully on the football. But Stuart has found an awful lot of these players. He's done the deals. The chairman, Dean Hoyle, basically got fed up of, I suppose, signing maybe journeyman footballers that are on a lot of money that come in and do an okay job at Huddersfield, but have a flaw, whether it's attitude, ability, injury proneness. And he said, look, I want players to come in that are maybe unknown and are going to come and going to work really, really hard and want to improve and probably aren't going to cost that much money. And that's what Stuart Weber's managed to find.
Super stuff. Gareth, just stay there one moment. Something Gareth just said about kind of the journeyman players' attitude problems, injury issues. These are problems that Norwich have had recruitment for years, aren't they?
What are you looking at me for, James?
I wouldn't dream of it. These are issues that Norwich have had with recruitment, isn't it? And getting the right players in.
And I think that's probably why they've brought Stuart in to go that way, because you look at the squad, it's an ageing squad. A few of those ageing players will go in the summer, and you need hungrier, younger players, fitter players to come in and fill those roles.
And clearly, you mentioned as well the relationship between Wagner and Weber. That's so important, isn't it? That if those two, they need to get along.
Yeah, he needs to get his man in. The board are trusting, obviously, so the man that he does bring in is going to have a really good relationship. They've got to have a good relationship, and if they don't, it's going to fail.
Gareth, just back to you quickly. The sporting director position that Stuart had, it's not a particularly common one in English football. Do you think, off the back of the success of Stuart, that more English clubs are going to start to go down this route like Norwich are now doing?
Yeah, I think so. The thing with Huddersfield Town is, one, they've got a very impressive and progressive owner in Dean Hoyle, but they are a small club, not always that attractive compared to other championship sides. They've always felt they had to do things differently, and Stuart Weber's role and how he worked that role has been a key part to trying to do things differently, to find advantage over bigger spending, bigger clubs, and it's obviously worked successfully this year. So I think people will be maybe copying that model. And I think one of the important things is that Huddersfield are particularly annoyed about the timing of this. They wonder why Stuart or Norwich couldn't have made this decision to move actually in the summer once the season was over. But I think what will happen at Norwich, like at Huddersfield, Stuart will be very crucial in a point to the next manager and trying to have the same working relationship as he had with David Wagner. So obviously that's why Norwich and Stuart want to get this deal done now rather than later on in the season. So I would expect he will have a big say in the kind of manager that they bring in next, and I think that kind of manager might be based on the kind of players they want to sign, maybe like the Huddersfield model. And if he has even half the success that he's had at Huddersfield, when you consider how big in the history of Norwich are, then it really could be a match made in heaven, and it could go a long way.
Super stuff. Gareth, just very, very quickly, you cover Leeds as well, who are doing very well in the Championship. I don't think many predicted Huddersfield and Leeds to be in the playoff spots this season. Do you think either of them can go all the way?
I'd love to say I predicted it and sound like a smart fans, but sadly we didn't see it either to see how well they've done this campaign. Both deserve to be exactly where they are. I'm a firm believer at the end of the season, cliche that the league doesn't lie. They can put, I think the playoff, what puts me off a little bit is the playoffs are so unpredictable this year. There's going to be, whichever the four they are, they're going to be really good teams. They've all got flaws and they've all had wobbles at the moment. So Leeds on their best day are really hard to break down and really hard to beat, and they can grind you out and Chris Wood can get a winner. Huddersfield, they're a very good side that play very well, but they don't score enough goals even though they dominate possession. So if either of those, again, the cliche, if I either get click in the playoffs, and I think one of them will go up. Which one it is, though, I'm not quite sure. Equally, Sheffield Wednesday worry me if they get in, just because they haven't had a great season, but they've just got that star quality that can shine in the playoffs. So I haven't really answered your question there, but I think that's why the playoffs are going to be so exciting. It could be any of the four.
Gareth, thank you ever so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Yeah, the top four then he's talking about, and the way that Norwich played at the weekend, it's gutting, isn't it, that Norwich aren't going to be there because they're clearly good enough to be.
Well, obviously, clearly they beat Reading 4-1, and Reading is one of the potentially club who can go in Premier League. But no, he just mentioned league don't lie.
No.
And Norwich are 10th, and I think they deserve to be where they are. There are too many loose game away, and I think that is where Norwich are in the league.
I suppose, so we didn't mention it earlier, that as wonderful as that 7-1 was at the weekend, just a few days earlier they'd gone to Huddersfield and lost 3-0, and they were very well beaten.
It was a typical week of how the season's gone. Shocking 1 minute away from home, and then superb down at Carrow Road.
Yeah, and did you expect either Huddersfield or Leeds to be in the playoffs?
No.
I thought Leeds with Gary
Leeds.
Monk in charge, if he got it right, he had to get it right, otherwise
He's been trusted, hasn't he?
He only signed a year contract.
Yeah, he's done ever so well.
He only signed a year contract, at least, Gary Monk, so he has to make an impact straight away. So,
which could play into Norwich's hands.
Well, yeah, it potentially could. Now, we're not expecting Norwich to go in for Wagner. I think there must be some kind of agreement there. But someone like Gary Monk, if Leeds don't get promoted this season, as you say, he's on a one-year rolling contract, and the stability maybe of coming to Norwich, maybe try nab him.
I just couldn't see,
No.
if the owner at Leeds still wants him, I just couldn't see him leaving the club the size of Leeds to Norwich, no disrespect.
Massive disrespect. Leeds.
There's nothing wrong with Leeds, is there? Why do you hate Leeds so much?
Leeds have a very tough season the last 2-3 years. Huddersfield exactly the same, where they finished last year. They've nearly been relegated. So them two being in the playoff this year is like, whoa.
It's right. There's a lot happening up on Yorkshire ways at the moment. It's even not Yorkshire, but Sheffield have done really well this season. Imagine a Leeds and Huddersfield final in the playoffs. That'd be great, wouldn't it? From a neutral.
Right, we've got another call on the line. It is Ben. Ben, thank you ever so much for joining us on the Pinken Show this evening. Have you seen the news today, or the reported news of a reshuffle in the back room, and what do you make of that?
Reshuffle in the back room, in what way?
Reports today that Ricky Martin and a couple of recruitment guys are going to be let go by Stuart Weber. Is that news you welcome or not particularly fazed by?
I think it kind of makes sense. Doesn't really feel like those guys have done anything particularly kind of groundbreaking or innovative, or done anything, or sort of brought anyone in the last kind of couple of years. So sort of feels like a kind of sensible move from Weber. Probably feels like one of those kind of easy things he can do to try and get the fans on side as well.
And what have you made of Weber? I know it's only early days so far, but the rumours of going abroad for maybe a young head coach, is that something you want to see at Norwich?
I just want to see someone that can kind of motivate a team, get the best out of some of the sort of half-decent players that we've got at Norwich, and kind of bring on some of the sort of young players that seem like they're kind of half-decent as well. So for me, it doesn't really matter if they're from Europe or wherever they're from. It's like a coach that's kind of going to get the best out of players and going to kind of motivate players as well.
Ben, if you just stay there for one moment, clearly motivating some of the players has been an issue. We talk about players who've been here for a huge amount of time and have maybe achieved things higher than a playoff or a championship promotion. Is there a desperate need to kind of revitalise this squad? Because we've been talking about it for a couple of years, haven't we?
There's a lot of players who are out of contract this end of this season. There's going to be a massive shuffle around in the summer.
I think we talked about and kind of hoped for his last season, didn't we? And it just didn't happen, did it? It's the same group.
I think there's a few players who have been here for slightly too long.
Yeah.
It's gone a bit stale for them. I think they need a fresh challenge to kickstart their careers again. And I think some fresh, hungry, younger blood needs to be brought in.
So I don't think we're questioning the guys' abilities, because we know they're all very good players, but you talk about maybe the ones who have gone to stay. If you just kind of give me a couple of names, who needs to move on, not because they're rubbish, but because things need to change.
Carl Lafferty's one of them. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't leave the club because he's on decent wages. I mean, no other club would want him as well.
No.
So I mean, that you can't get, unless we took players out of the club, we couldn't bring people in. That was the big issue during the transfer windows. But John Ruddy's been here for a long time. Bassong's another one.
You lose John Ruddy.
Maybe he's been here a long time, although he came back to the side. He kind of had a...
One controversial or different name for you, you'd maybe let go.
Yusuf Mulumbu.
You let Mulumbu.
Yeah.
Got
Ben, too many options in there, I think.
Benny, just very quickly, anyone you kind of want to see moved on this summer, maybe from the first team, not your Laffertys, someone a bit different?
Well, I think sort of Bassong's the obvious one, isn't he? I don't know. I think John Ruddy would be quite an interesting one. I think he's kind of sort of feels like he's sort of fallen away a little bit. So I think it might be time to move on from him and try and get in like a kind of different keeper. But yeah, I think like all of the names to move on are like kind of obvious. And I think most Norwich fans would probably be in agreement in terms of the people that they'd prefer to see sort of leave the club in the summer.
Super stuff. Ben, thank you ever so much for your call. I really do appreciate it. So John Ruddy, that is a name that I think has not been mentioned particularly. He's been here a long time.
32 now?
He's now into his 30s.
You've got Declan Rudd, who I rate as a good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
He's been shipped out on loan to Charlton this season. He was taken out of the firing line last year in the Premier League for his own benefit from Alex Neil. But I think he's ready now. I really do. I don't think McGovern is the answer. I forgot his first name.
No, Michael McGovern.
Michael McGovern is the answer. John's, for a goalkeeper, he is still relatively young though at 32,
Exactly.
But maybe it is, I don't know.
He's just been here for a long time. I mean, he's been in and out of the season quite often this season, and a little bit of last season as well. He was injured he never got back from his best when he was injured about 4 or 5 years ago. But maybe it is one. If you could go through the whole.
What about Alex
Tetty?
Tetty? I mean,
yeah, that's another one I was going to say. I mean, you've got the whole.
Alex Tetty's played near about every game.
Every game, yeah.
So is he really someone you'd lose?
Me personally, I would let him go. Yeah, I don't think he's good enough. I think they've got better options in there. But as you say, he started nearly every game.
Yeah, I would just on the live YouTube stream just had a comment from David Vincent saying that basically we should build the team around Alex Pritchard. Would you kind of be in agreement with that? In the last few weeks, he's really kind of shown the.
Well, you talk about recruitment, and Stuart Weber said the last few transfer windows haven't been good. He's the one bright star that the club have brought in. I think I saw him when he was on loan at Brentford. I think he's an outstanding player.
And that position he plays though, he's number 10, isn't he? That's where he wants to play. Do we push Wes out or Pritchard out to get them in both team, or does one maybe need to stand back?
All
to the
good
other?
things come to an end, don't they?
Yeah.
With Wes, especially with Wes. I mean, he is ageing. He looks great, and he's played on fire the last couple of games. But as I said, well, not the last game at least. But he's getting older. This could be the last season he's probably plays full time. And Alex Pritchard's great. When he's great, he can destroy teams.
Yeah.
But when he's not, he looks a bit of a bit player.
Well, I saw him playing away to Bradford, and I would not say that it was disappointing, because everyone can have a bad game, but he was not into the game at all.
No. Another question from the YouTube live stream, so keep them coming in, guys. Thank you very much. Johnny Woodby says, do we need a real target man? Maybe one for you, Ewan. Because Cameron, Jerome and Oliveira, they're big strikers, but you wouldn't necessarily call them a target man, would you?
I'd probably call Cameron a target man. He's 6 foot plus, he's big, he's strong, he's quick.
He worked the back four as well.
Yeah, maybe not as strong in the air.
No.
But I think we're a bit of a dying breed now, old target men.
We look at the likes of Chris Wood this season, has shown that that big lump of a.
Is he any bigger than Cameron Jerome? I don't think he is.
I'd say he was a different player to Cameron Jerome. He's not going to run the channels maybe like Cam would.
No.
Oliveira was great as a target man, actually.
He holds it up, yeah.
He holds the ball very well.
But you know, he's not a typical English player, Oliveira. You can see he's been playing abroad. He's completely the opposite of.
He's technically superb, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, 2 good feet, great with his back to goal.
Yeah, Oliveira, when he came in at the weekend, he does bring something different, doesn't he? I think when he initially signed, people didn't really realise maybe the qualities he did have.
He works very well with Pritchard and Wes, actually, because he holds the ball up and he knocks it off and goes in behind. So Wes is always looking for him, and Pritchard was getting in behind as well. Those 3 played brilliantly out there.
But I saw a lot of him when he was on loan at Swansea a couple of years ago. And he impressed me then. The only thing that was lacking was goals. I don't think he scored a goal for Swansea.
No, he did. 16 games without a goal, which
got himself in some good positions, but just didn't hit the target. And that hasn't really been a problem for him. He scored some magnificent goals.
Usually, technical players are very good outside the box.
Yeah.
Don't score many goals.
And his goals have been spectacular, to be fair, as well, haven't they?
He's technically, clearly a very, very tidy footballer, and he's at a really good age where, you know, he's come through the ranks at Benfica.
Yeah,
With lots of loan spells, and he's got a chance here to build a home and get comfortable and become a regular goal scorer.
Yeah, for me, is how the new manager will come and the system he wants to play. You know, he might want to play 2 up front. You don't know. And for me, is how the new manager will come.
Cameron's 31 now. He's signed a new 3-year contract.
Yeah, still got a good couple of years on a big new contract. So yeah. But would you
I
play
like
them
Cam.
together?
He's great. He's a fan's favourite. People know he's not the greatest finisher. We know that. But he just runs his heart out every game. People love. People love watching.
I do think them 2 can work together.
You do?
They have proved.
I think
they have proved. Yeah, they have proved in a few games.
But not many people play 2 up front these days. Right, we've got
Leicester
Tony.
did last year and won the league.
Well, nearly. Tony Beals is on the phone now. Tony, thank you very much for joining us on the Pink 'Un Show. We're just having a little chat about who thinks should get Player of the Year. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think there's really only sort of 4 contenders, really. I mean, the whole season has been poor, but there have been 4 standouts as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Johnny Howson, you know, obviously when he was out towards the end of last year, you know, our form certainly dipped and we missed him, but he's been a consistent performer throughout the season, obviously when he's been available. I think Cameron Jerome's led the line extremely well, scored some very important goals. It's in the emergence of Jacob Murphy, who that's been sort of capped with a under-21s appearance. And, of course, Wes. I mean, I think Wes is... I think he's the fans' favourite, and he would probably be my tip to get it.
And there's no sentiment involved there, no, Tony. You think that Wes has been the standout player in what obviously has been, you know, a slightly disappointing season?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it has been a disappointing season, but you know, when Wes has played, you know, he's done extremely well. And you know, I think when he comes onto the pitch, everyone sort of moves to the edge of their seat because they know something's going to happen. You know, he's a little magician, isn't he? And yeah, I mean, the goal that he scored against, I think it's Nottingham Forest, obviously clearly overshadowed by Johnny Howson's effort, but you know, on its own, superb. But I think Wes will probably will get it because the fans love him. That's who I think will get it. I think with the players having their players player, I think that will go to Howson.
Super stuff. Tony, if you just stay with us there, bear with us, sorry, for one moment. With Wes, there's not a sentiment involved in there. You know, you generally believe that it's him or Howson, really. Is there anyone outside of those 2 who could disrupt that?
Cameron should be mentioned for, 15 goals this season and his performances.
Jacob as well, for me.
Yeah.
He scored 10 and set up numerous.
It's been
his first of the season, but proper full season.
But you'd imagine he'll obviously
thing is,
be that young player.
I think Wes has turned it on down at Carrow Road, where more Norwich fans see him. I think he's probably struggled, as they all have really, away from home.
He lifts all the fans when he's got the ball, and I think, you know, you can see he's got something that others don't have.
Yeah. But maybe we do now have that.
He's a proper bowler. He's a proper bowler.
Like you were back in the day, Cedric. And Tony, very, very quickly,
I'm not sure about
Fulham
that.
on Friday, a bit of a bogey side. What you kind of make of that?
What, the Fulham game?
Yeah, obviously we haven't got the greatest of records against Fulham. Are we worried about that? Kind of for the season gone, you're not too bothered now?
Well, we always look at Fulham as a bogey team, and you know, I mean, obviously we broke the hoodoo when we played them last time out at Carrow Road. But I mean, yeah, they've got their act together on and off the pitch, and Jokanovic, their manager, I think his efforts have been repaid with signing of a new contract in February. You know, 3 standouts in their side would be the youngster Ryan Sessegnon. You've got Kearney in midfield who likes to sort of get forward, and of course Chris Martin as well. And if his name's on the team sheet, then what the odds of scoring. But I was having a look at the stats on that, and looking at teams in the top 10. I think both of us have got pretty poor defences. Both conceded about 52 goals, I believe, but both scoring lots as well, with sort of 72. So I think it's going to be both teams to score, and I could probably see it being quite a high game because obviously the defences perhaps haven't been as good as they should be.
Super stuff. Tony, thank you ever so much for your call. Great stuff. It's going to be a high scoring one. He's done his stats check like I've done. Yeah, both scored 72 goals this season. That's huge.
Should be higher in the league with those types of stats, but obviously they haven't got it quite right at the other end. I think I've seen every club in this division, and they're the best footballing side that I've seen. Fulham, very good side.
They're open. It's kind of for a team to come to Norwich. It's what we like playing against, isn't it?
I think the way they played, I think they are open. All the team who play that sort of system, they are completely open. Norwich goes similar system and they concede a lot of goals. But I saw Fulham playing Tottenham in the FA Cup about a month and a half ago, and I was really impressed with them. The way they move the ball, they're very impressive.
We'll talk about Fulham more up in part 3. But we've just got a tweet here from Cam. He's talking about certain Mr. Dykes, who's on loan at the moment. What have you kind of made of him? And I suppose beyond that, do we think there's a chance of him signing permanently? And would you want him to?
I know Cameron. Don't listen to a word he says.
Really?
Yeah, don't listen to a word he says. But he's a great player. But I never thought it was hope and hell's chance of getting him to sign on. But he said he's going to go talk to Weber this weekend.
It does feel like there's been a change, that when he initially signed the loan deal, it was, I'll come here on loan, and if we don't get promoted, I'm not interested. But he seems to have settled really nicely. I think Ajax would be willing to do a deal, and suddenly, if there might be a chance of that transfer happening.
I think it'd be a great signing. And I think it would be one that would please the fans. He's magnificent at getting forward. He can nick you a goal. And he's not your ordinary left back, if you like.
No.
He's 6'3".
6'4".
Yeah, 6'3", 6'4". It's like question mark over his temperament, maybe. But no, I think he'd be a great signing.
But that temperament you mentioned there, he's only 23 as well.
That's all he is.
You don't realise maybe how young he is because he's so big, and he's obviously come through the Ajax academy. So clearly he's got a great football grounding.
Yeah. All the players come out from the Ajax academy. They all go on in their career and become sort of a very good players. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but Ian mentioned his tempo. He's very hard on the pitch. The tackle he made and I think it's what Norwich need next year.
Yeah, fans like a hard man type player, don't they? In this side,
I can't.
Ewan used to be the one. I mean, I won't say what he used to do, but
the amount of people that have said how much they love, that every time he goes shoulder barge, they go flying off him. He's a fan's favourite already.
But what he has got as well, he's got a really cultured left foot. I would love to play with him because I would know that he would put the ball right on my forehead. I'll just shut up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ewan. Right, and that is us done for Talk is Cheap. A huge thank you for all your calls, tweets and comments. And if you want to get involved in future, it's simpler than ever. Just get in touch via the Pink and message boards or drop us an email to sport@mustardtv.co.uk. And if you want to see it all over again, you can catch all our Norwich City content on our Norfolk Now YouTube channel. Right, that is done for part 2. Join us in part 3 for the latest Founder Floor attempt. Plus, we look ahead to Friday's visit to Fulham. Hello and welcome back to the final part of this evening's Pink 'Un Show, where I'm joined by Iwan Roberts, John Rogers and Cedric. Now I'm afraid it's time to forget that 7-1 and turn our attentions to Fulham, and boy don't we just love playing them. But before we do that, it's time for the Foul on the Floor challenge in the turn of Acle United. Let's see how they got on. Hello and welcome to the Pink 'Un Show's Foul on the Floor challenge, where this evening we're in Acle. I'm joined now by Dave, you're the reserve team manager here.
Yep.
But I've been having a look, we've been doing this all season, and Acle, they are the highest level in terms of league position that we've had take part in this challenge all season. So yeah, so no pressure here whatsoever. So it's Norwich teams at the moment, who play in the same league as your first team. They scored 4 in, I think it was about 1 minute 40.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have a rough idea of what they're doing, you're confident?
Yeah, they're dizzy most Saturdays, so they're used to it. It's fine.
Right, perfect. So we bring in our first player then, who have we got?
Yeah, so we've got Oscar the Stelzer Hiller, young centre-back for the first team and reserves. He'll be playing for the first team this evening.
Super stuff. Who's in next?
Hayden the Best Gibbons, centre mid for the first team.
Next.
Callum the Giant Wiley, he's the muscle boy of the first team.
Cheers, mate.
Davidas, he can spell his name for you. He's our international superstar.
Brilliant. A bit of continental flair to mustard, that's what you like. And last but by no means least, who have we got?
Lloyd Barbecue Sauce Sayer.
You're going to have to explain that.
Best not.
Brilliant.
Found on Facebook, search Lloyd Sayer.
Will do. Right, so as you say, you're confident. You've got a bit 4 in about 1 minute 40. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right, 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, that's a good save! Right, you've already lost the seams, but we'll do it anyway. Hey, let's not get 0. Run! Come on! Brilliant! Last one! Just save it! No, we're not counting it. I'm not having that. That's off me. Right, so as I said beforehand, you are the best team that's taken part in this challenge. You had 4 to beat. You know you scored 0.
Yeah.
But 1 minute 31 is a quick time.
Yeah.
You know, there is already some other teams who have scored 0, and you were the quickest out of all of them. So you're not quite at the bottom.
So we're quick but not clinical.
Quick, but not very good at football.
That's not good.
So thanks for taking part anyway.
Thank you.
He's got one leg.
Super stuff there from Acle United first team, and you can see the reserve team next week, and we'll have a look what this means to the Foul on the Floor leaderboard. There's only a couple more weeks left of this, and I'm sure you'll be very disappointed to hear it. And there they are, down in 17th. Team Mustard still proudly sitting in 20th spot. Aye. But your boys were good at it, weren't they, Cedric?
Yeah, I think we were. I didn't see
You were in
that.
the top 5, top 4.
He went too quickly. Yeah, no, my boys
Sorry.
done very well.
I can't believe you're not counting that one or the last one.
But when it came off the wall and then off my... No.
Backside, yeah, you got
Never.
some.
No.
Clean sheet.
It's big enough.
It was, wasn't it?
Clean sheet.
Not had many of them.
But you didn't have to do any save anyway, apart the first
You should
shot.
have first one.
I found the first one.
That's top class, that, Cedric. Right, as with every show, we like to compile a little stat pack on Norwich's record against their next opponents. That opponent is, of course, Fulham. You don't need me to tell you that record against them isn't exactly great. But here goes anyway. Same as you. And one thing I noticed there, guys, from all those tweets, from the stats, sorry, was the game in October. Nobody kind of remembers that one, but it was 2-0, and we ended up drawing 2-2, and then that sparked the horrendous run. We were top then. Why is it Fulham? How can you have bogey teams?
John, you came up with a stat after you said that was the sort of turn. I think it was.
I made it up. So
I did it.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I did.
7 points.
Yeah, we got 7 points from that game up until the turn of the year in January.
But it's interesting, isn't it? 'Cause the last couple of years, people have highlighted the 2 Newcastle away games, but clearly this game has as big effect on Norwich's season as any other.
But they lost those games, didn't they? Against Newcastle, well, especially the one. So that's
so people don't perhaps remember this one because they didn't lose, but it sparked afterwards. Was it 5 or 6 game losing streak, and the record from there has been poor.
We were cruising up until that point.
Yeah.
We were 2-0 up at half time. We got finally going to beat this hoodoo we have at Craven Cottage.
Yeah.
And then they got back into it. And from that point, it was pretty much downhill.
Rumble.
We were going up and every now and then. We had that 5-0. Brentford, that's the game.
Yeah.
The 5-0 that we kind of we got back in again and we fell away again. And just been like that for the rest of the season. So that was the turning point, which proves that Craven Cottage is haunted.
It's lovely.
I don't think I ever did well there.
Huh?
I think I scored there once for Norwich and we got a draw, 1-1.
1-1.
Well, one win since 1999, played 19 times. That's not just bad luck. That's clearly a horrendous record there. You can't explain it, can you?
Why is it? Come on, you're the
Cedric, you were.
Sometimes you go clubs. You even if you play your best on a day, sometimes you walk away with, a draw or even a lose. It's very hard to explain.
Craven Cottage, it's not an easy place to go.
No.
It's an old stadium. The dressing rooms
It's
aren't.
not a particularly hostile atmosphere, is it?
No, but the crowd seem right on top of you. Old stands and stuff like that. Not making excuses.
What are the dressing rooms like?
Tiny.
Yeah, they're
Are
quite small.
So it's kind of
Old-fashioned.
heating up.
It's all white and bench are black.
But then you'd expect Norwich to have a better record at Carrow Road against them, wouldn't you?
You would do, exactly. You've still got to play them at home,
Yeah.
haven't we? No, but what have we made of Fulham? Because, again, they look like they could sneak into the playoffs. Slavica Jokanovic he got Watford promoted, didn't he? And they've kind of quietly been going about their work, but they're clearly doing something well,
I think,
aren't
but
they?
when you look at people like Leeds and Huddersfield, no one expected them.
No.
I didn't expect Fulham to be up there, if
They
I'm
didn't
totally
really
honest.
spend
I didn't really
anything
know that much about them. They brought a few in, but they're a very good side. And I do like, is it Kearney, Tom Kearney?
Kearney,
I think
yeah.
he's a tremendous player. If they don't go up, I think he'll be playing Premier League football next year anyway.
But he's clearly doing something right. He's done a good job at Watford. And I heard today that West Ham potentially,
if Bilic was to go.
exactly. So he's obviously a good manager, a good coach, and he should with Fulham again.
And not only, you mentioned Tom Kearney, and Tony earlier in part 2 mentioned about Ryan Sessegnon, the young lad there, but Chrissy Martin as well, ex-Norwich lad, and he's banging in the goals for Fulham. He's kind of, he's been doing it for years in the Championship, hasn't he?
He's banging them in because he couldn't go back to Derby.
Yeah.
But he wanted to go back. He made didn't want to go. Wouldn't play for the first team. Made some excuse that he had an injury, but he's knuckled down and worked hard again and scored goals. Chris will always score goals.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we'll just have a look at the fixtures come Friday, because we've got Friday and Monday fixtures. Just have a look at these here. So, of course, Norwich at home to Fulham. Huddersfield, they've lost the last couple. They're at home to Preston. Newcastle Leeds, that's a big one there. Sheffield Wednesday, Cardiff.
I'm at that one.
Yeah?
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, Cardiff.
So, yeah, but it's a big weekend, isn't it, for Norwich City?
Easter always is.
Friday, Monday,
Yeah,
2 games in
yeah.
quick succession. I suppose by the start of next week we'll
You know,
know.
people say Christmas is a vital period in the football calendar.
Yeah.
It is, but because Easter, you've only got 3 games
So close.
after this. If you lose your 2 games over Easter, you know, you might not have the games to catch up.
Right, we're going to have to get to our 11s for the weekend. So we're going to start with, let's start with Ewan's. Let's see who you'd pick for the weekend. Talk us through it. Maddison out left.
I think, yeah, that's the
2 up front.
back 4. I think that is the best back 4. Just gone with a 1 holding midfield. I think 2 is a waste. I thought bring Maddison in. I think now's the time to have a look at some of the younger lads that haven't been given an opportunity. If Ben Godfrey, his name springs to mind. I think he's injured. Otherwise, I would have maybe given him a chance as well. Pritchard, you know, we've spoken about him and Wes. He's the future.
Yeah.
You know, Wes still has got a future at the club. I'm not writing Wes off by any means, but Pritchard is the future. And I would play Jerome and Oliveira up front.
Right, we'll have to have a quick look at John and Cedric's.
Well, you know why?
Yeah, well, it's nice and quick. You obviously got unchanged from the weekend, I presume.
How can you change
Yeah.
a team that got won
Yeah,
7-1?
Ewan, how could you change that from the weekend?
Exactly. I can see where Ian come from, but for me as a player, if you win 7-1 and the next game follow and you're on the bench, or you know, you just sort of your confidence get dropped, and you know, hopefully they will be on a good run for finish the season.
I do agree. We're out, so there's time to get the players to get some experience in the league.
And see some players.
We are running out of time. Let's get some score predictions. Bearing in mind this game is likely to produce goals. 0-0.
2-2 I'm going for.
2-2.
That's what I've gone for.
3-1 to Norwich.
Well, I'm at the game on Saturday, so I would say 3-2 Norwich.
3-2 Norwich. And finally, maybe, hopefully, that horrible run against Fulham will be all but over and come next week.
Sorry, it was Friday, not
Hey,
Saturday.
it's Friday.
Friday at 3
Thank you
o'clock.
so
That's
much
weird.
I
for
said
joining
Saturday.
us. Thank you. Okay, that is all we have got time for tonight. Thank you to Ewan, John and Cedric for joining me this evening. Thank you to Gareth from BBC Leeds and all the other callers and tweeters for getting involved this evening. Friday Sports Extra has been moved to tomorrow evening, where we'll have all the top lines from the press conference ahead of Norwich Fulham, and make sure you tune in to the Pink and Matchday show. On Friday, that'll be with you at 8:30 with all the immediate manager, player, pundit and fan reaction from that game. But until then, goodbye.